Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tony from China. Been working for a company for the named Joy Mao for the past 15 years. In the morning, there were quite several speakers talking about China, which I show full respect. And now, after lunch, I would like to share probably our prospects with China from our probably experience or later works across China by taking you guys probably across the mist and also sharing some probably statistics or numbers from different angles of the country. And then we found probably the right path, the right approach to accommodate with the market. And we found the shared joint future together. For the past probably 5 to 10 years, I think there have been a lot of complexity and also confusion around, probably in the industry. Firstly, I think globally, the weather has been quite, probably there was a lot of extreme weather going around, like rainstorm, drought, or heat waves. And also wars happening here and there, like the conflict in Middle East, Red Sea, and Ukraine. And then socially, the consumption has just been so difficult to read, I think, for most probably people sitting here. Oh, sorry. And then in the morning, I think Professor also mentioned that turbulence. So the dispute between the two biggest economy in the world has been going on probably for more than 10 years already. While now, if you look at the recent news, actually, both sides pose another 10 to 15% of tariff over most of the commodities actually imported from. And then we also had the two sessions recently in China. And then I think the government is sending a strong signal actually to the world that firstly the GDP, the target will be 5%. I think that will be the bottom line for the government. The government will take all possible means to hit that budget, 5% at the bottom line. Also, I think they released a lot of, favorable policies, like now they changed the fiscal dissipate from 3% in the past to 4%, which will probably release another 1.6 trillion RMB to the market. So the government is really doing everything possible to stimulate the economy and the consumption. Well, from China's side, politically, I think something probably not favorable is that we are kind of isolating from the rest of the world. And then Taiwan issue become quite a topic, probably between most of the, Western or China. And then the land regulation also get tightened. Then economic-wise, GDP slowed down from probably 8, 7, 6%. Now we're talking about 5%. Different from probably most other countries are having probably inflation, while China is more, a deflation scenario. And then RMB is decreasing versus US dollars is getting very strong. Social-wise, the population, the aging is becoming quite an issue. So every year we have more deaths than newborns in China, probably by more than 1 million per year. And then higher unemployment. Officially, we're talking about the 5% or so, but all these people in rural area, they were counted in that probably statistic and the rat race, because with things being difficult, then people have to fight for the best probably position for themselves. So the rat race become quite a social issue. Then technological-wise, so with the new AI stuff, we have the DeepSeek manual stuff newly issued, but we don't really have major outbreak. And we are still probably being blocked away from the most advanced chip stuff from the world. And then also we have a lot of probably overproduction in the social society, and then creating a lot of consumption, degrading stuff. So I think then a lot of questions probably being raised from all over the world. So is China still going to be top market as a haven probably as we had in the past? We pay probably the highest return for the best fruit, or is going to hail for our fruit. And most, for probably like the past 2 seasons, probably the return will be far from expectation. So what will be the root cause behind and how we can accommodate with these things? So firstly, I will talk from macro level, and I will show you some numbers. Firstly, the GDP. So as I said, that has been the GDP numbers for the past 2 years, and the new budget for this coming year is 5%. But interesting enough is we actually now have probably the lowest interest rate in the world. For like 3 years fixed, the interest rate is not even up to 2%. But despite of this, the resident deposits increased by 12 trillion in 2024, make it like to 150 trillion as a total saving in the bank. Well, on the other side, if you look at the social retail sales volume, so that's 48 trillion RMB for last year, while the saving is 12, so which can be 1/4 of the total consumption of the society. So just imagine that. Then we come to the fruit imports. So it is still increasing. So 2024, we imported 7.7 million tons of fruit from the whole world. Value-wise is $177 million value. So it is still increasing, probably not as great as 3 years ago, but I think the trend is still very positive. Well, then we look at the market. I'm sorry, the numbers are a little bit falling behind. We don't have CGA in China, so it is just so difficult to get all these numbers actually to up to date. So if you look, I'm sure most of you have been hearing about the 4 biggest cities in China. That's Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. So each of them have probably market value over 50 billion RMB. So following by like Chongqing, Chengdu, Hangzhou, those cities. But if you look at the second-tier cities, actually we also see quite great potential. So like Wenzhou, Shenyang, Wuxi, those cities, all of them have a market value exceeding like 15 billion RMB, which is, I think, big enough. So that's actually also in line with our strategy, going around that to go wide, to do more probably second, third tier cities, also go deep, like the first tier cities. Then probably have a quick glance at the China fruit market. So probably China market is very different from any other market most people been looking after or work with, because probably China market is more diversified or dynamic than most of other markets. Firstly, if you look at the sales channels in China, so we have wholesale market still play quite an important role for the business, probably more important than any other market you would have seen. And then the traditional new retails like Walmart, Aeon, or those things. And also we have those emerging channels, mostly e-commerce, those instant delivery. So if you look at those wholesale performance, actually, so the market has been pretty well in general. While for retail, like I said, Walmart or Vanguard or Aeon, those things, actually the sales in general has been increasing, probably not as great as it used to, but still we see quite decent increase. So probably most of you have been hearing about Sam's Club, which has been probably the best performing retailers in China. So they are now only have 50 stores in China, but they have been 100 billion RMB sales in 2024 from 50 stores. So it's like 2 billion per store per annual sales, which is just incredible. So why actually that's boosting that quickly? I think consumers are just more focusing on quality. And they have, I would say, they have a quite a unique route to build the supply chain. So that's an emerging sales channel, mostly the e-commerce stuff. Also, we are still seeing quite a big increase, but I think differently is that most of the retail, those e-commerce you saw or you heard 10 years ago, mostly they don't exist anymore. But you've been hearing now some new ones which you won't be able to limit at this stage. But in general, the market is still growing very quickly. Especially for young people, they are really relying on it very much. So for retail involved in China, I think the fast growing will be the membership stuff, like Sam's Club, Costco, and then the hypermarket, probably they will be the most suffering one in China. They've been probably closing stores or adjusting their strategy in China market. Then O2O, it has been there for probably more than 10 years, but probably the most famous one is Hema. They also named it the Fish Hippo. So they also did quite some reforming for the past couple of years. So now they start to make profit and expanding again. And then the instant retail or those dark store, so they have probably one small mini store, dark store, just a small warehouse to cover certain area of communities. And then by clicking on their apps, you will get fruit or things delivered within half an hour or maximum 1 hour. So that's actually, I think, made big part of that emerging retail stuff. Then e-platform, probably what you can limit, like JD or Tmall, I think they probably are more stable. They take quite a conservative approach for the past couple of years. And then live streaming, that's also one of the stuff we see a lot of growth, but also they are adjusting because from the government side, I don't think they got that much support or backup from that. So those pictures would take over a normal weekend. That's Sam's Club. So you wouldn't believe actually how busy they are or how many people there, and things there are not cheap. Well, probably in other market, which I don't want to show pictures here, but you can imagine it's the other way. Well, besides some, probably people will ask, you only have Sam's Club performing well. Actually, those three, I would also like to share, probably Aldi. Aldi in China is very different probably from what you've seen in Germany or in Europe. So they are, firstly, I think they are higher level positioned. And then most stores there, I think there are about 50 stores, but most stores are community store. It's like 300, 500 square meters big. But they have very selective SKUs, and they have built a quite good supply chain. So in Shanghai or in East China, if you talk about Aldi, for young people, they will say they love it so much. So probably for the next 5-10 years, we will see a lot of growth with Aldi. And the other one is Pangdonglai, we name it DL. It's now still only in Henan, in a plain area in China, but they only have probably now 12 or 13 stores. But the revenue is incredible as well. And also, there's a lot of probably followers online, so they produce quite a purchasing agent to do the procurement from the store and do the courier for them. Again, they are never cheap, but they are really getting a lot of followers and appreciation from the market because they sell things, good things, and they sell good things consistently. And then Xiaoxiang online market is invested by Meituan. So I think it is the generation 3 of the trials, but in 2 years' time, I think the revenue is about 30 billion RMB, and it's very popular. Again, I think they did things right, is selected SKU and good quality and good value. Well, in the morning, I think a lot of people were asking me about the cherry scenario actually in China. So I feel very sorry for I would say, for growth this year. But is that simply because of the market or because of the demand? I can tell you that the answer is definitely no. So actually, the industry shipped like 30,000 containers versus 20,000 containers last year. So it's a big jump, 50% growth. But if you look at the market, actually, the first half was pretty good. Probably not as good as last year, but I think it's reasonably good. 250, 300 RMB selling price. But, But only after this. So this lady actually had organized a live stream online, and she ate 1.5 kilo of cherry in one go. And then she was sent to hospital. And it was said it's some poisoned by some chemicals. Then everything actually started to change from there, because the consumers are not really well educated. They don't really understand the process. And they just follow these probably KOLs, what they think or what their experience is. So then all of a sudden, people will really start to worry about cherries, because they are saying how cherries can stand after probably 40 days of transit, or from picking to the market, at least it's 40 days or something. How it can last that long? While in China, our cherries probably from Shandong, they won't be able to even travel out of Shandong or last for 1 week. So all these things really, all this gossip, all these news really start to spread out. Because cherries actually is a perfect item for Chinese New Year. Perfect shape, perfect eating, and perfect timing for Chinese New Year. But once these things start to spread out, so people don't want to buy cherries for gifts at all, or even for their own family consumption. So that's where things really start to change. Also on the other side, this year, I would say, normally in Chile, probably 1 hectare, they can produce 20 tons. But this year it's quite overcropped. They can easily get 25 or 30. So I think we have a lot of growth here. I'm sure you can understand what does that mean if it is overcropped. So the shelf life is not there, the eating is not there. While also on the other side, the packing capacity is not there. Just imagine they have like 110 million boxes of 5 kilo to pack in like 10, 12 weeks for the whole industry. But they only have, I think it's about 3,000 lines in the industry. So it's above what the capacity can really handle. So all these things actually combined together, I think, for sure, I think the demand did play some certain role, but I think it's a combination of all these things. So after we talk about all these things, so I think then the question comes about the consumption. So it's really going downwards, or actually it's evolving. Yeah. So I think probably both, I would say. So I'm sure the economy, all the uncertainty with the future, all these things actually did affect the consumption, because you can see from the rate and the deposit. So people tend to put money probably into bank instead of spending. Well, on the other side, I think the market has been there for imported for the past 20 years. So the consumers get really smart. They start to understand what is the best, or what they would like to pay for the fruit. So it comes from probably cost effectiveness to more quality and value balanced stuff. So the consumption behavior is really evolving. So in the past, we have a lot of those e-commerce. Probably they fight with price. Price is everything. Like for 3 pieces of grapefruit in the past, probably this platform sell 9.9, others 8.9, 7.9. So they go with the cheapest one. But now, they will say, I want this quantity. Whoever can supply me the the consistent, good quality with consistent price. I go with that. So I think that's also one of the reasons, like Sam's Club, Pandonglai, or Aldi, they've been performing well or outperforming for the past 5 years. Then the question comes is how we can accommodate with this change of those consumption behaviors or the preference. I think the good thing, I've been talking actually with our colleagues in South Africa, that probably, I think from South African side, we are lucky because we have CGA. So I think the association, I would say, is one of the best organized association in food business in the world. And I think they've been working very visionary and dedicated for the market. So I think it's important that we keep uniting around CGA and do the right things and do things right. So firstly, I think the most important is the varieties, probably the variety involving. So we've been complaining that the market has been poor, but if you look at the market, but when probably the market is only pay 120, 150 for normal mandarins, but Royal Honeymoon are getting probably 250 or 300. While for normal average levels getting 150, but Cambrias, wheat crowns are getting 250. So people really know what they would like to pay for a good piece of fruit. So this will be our observation about the variety involving probably the preference from China market side. I think definitely easy peel will be the future. Probably it come much slower than other markets, but it is coming and quickly. So easy peel, seedlings, and a good balance or ratio of brix acid. In the past, probably people like to have purely sweet fruit, but young people now tend to have a little bit acid fruit. But also citrus need to have a citrus flavor, so need to be flavorful. And then oranges. Again, eating will be the determining factor for the fruit. And China actually buy oranges for fresh eating instead of juicing. So that's why we always say levels or late levels will be outstanding for the future. But again, I think South Africa is in a very unique position with Valencias, because in the same time, we don't really have other supply from any other countries. So the eating really determines. If the eating is good from South Africa, I'm sure the market will pay for it, for both probably Valencias or levels. Then for grapefruit, unfortunately, I think it's really shifting to a processing item instead of fresh eating in the past. So I think we've been actually working very closely to see if we can develop some good program with retail for fresh consumption. But I think the majority will go with processing. I think last year I really traveled around in China to talk to people to see, even from the first part of the season, the market was good. But if I follow up with the real buyers of those fruit, it's still went to processing. Probably not the giant ones, but more regional ones, small ones with a couple of stores. So they bought those fruit for processing. Lemons probably, again, it's another processing thing. Or I think, again, we need to develop more recipe, also do more education. Again, I think the China production is quite probably a threat to importing side, because we don't have official numbers, but easily I think we have more than 500,000 tons production, if not 1 million. And then next, I think to accommodate with market development, I think quality will be the essential. That quality probably is very different from what we've been talking in the past. Because in the past, we always said we need very clean, cosmetically we need it very clean. But now I would say the quality, we are more tolerable with cosmetic, but eating is really becoming more important. And then with eating, I would say we don't really have area for people to speculate or to take risk, because either good or very bad in China. So that's also some observation from us. In general, I don't think there will be any more window for speculation, because like in the past, for early window, the market pays well. But with, as I said, with public consumers getting mature with what they are going to pay for. So if the fruit is not right, even it's early, I don't think the market will pay for it. And then stability and consistency really build the market and the appreciation for that. And price fluctuations just kill demand. So you just imagine if you bought several pieces of fruit, or the early fruit, which is always expensive in the past, but probably for most cases it doesn't eat well. So what will be your thought? I either stop buying or I go with something else. I think that's very simple. And then with all these above mentioned things down, I think then branding and marketing is become quite important. And here I don't want to talk too much. I think to build a brand is not really to get always the best price or top price from the market. I think the essential one is that we get some premium, like 10, 20 RMB maximum from the market in a good market. But then we are the prioritized or preferred brand in probably a challenging market. I think probably that will be the core to build the brand, and we build the marketing campaign around that. So those are those offline marketing campaign we've been doing, and those offlines, those are online. So young people actually, we have a platform named Little Book, which is similar to Instagram. So young people, they do a lot of surfing over that. So we need to do a lot of eye-catching or interesting marketing thing there. We need to get the support from the young people. And then logistic solutions, I think we really need to move forward with more efficient logistic solutions, probably from picking, packing, then transportation to the port, then the shipping, all this stuff. In general, I was supposed to talk more about China crop, but to be honest, I don't see China crop will be a big threat to South Africa, because in general, I think from June onward till October, South Africa will have the market by itself, probably together with Australia, but that's all, because during that window, we don't really have much supply locally. Probably some lemons, but for other items, we don't really have supplies locally. So I think we have the window by ourselves, but again, how we can catch that window, I think the logistic solution is becoming quite essential. Especially, we always talk about the Moon Festival or the National Day holiday window. Also, the co-treatment is getting more difficult. Since 2 years ago, the China customers are getting very strict with the upload of the co-treatment data from the shipping line. So they request the upload directly from the shipping line. So there is no area to play around.
Yeah, that's freaking.
So that's why we do believe the bulk vessel or the conventional one will be very important for the future. And then also something else we've been doing is the cross-Asia joint effort. So we use Hong Kong probably as a hub. Then we see which market probably pays the best. We go from there, from Hong Kong to those markets, instead of probably ship directly to China or something. So that will be our model probably for the future. So the first part is what I've been talking from the growing side or from the product perspective. While from our side or as a supply chain management company, probably efficiency or extra value will be how we can survive or stand long for or sustain for the future. So what we are doing as probably as Joey Mao from China. So firstly, we are the biggest probably distribution agent to retail. We are also focused a lot on wholesale. So for the past year, 2024, we are about 20 billion revenue. and half from the distribution, half from wholesale. While with distribution center, we have 37 with 200,000 warehouse area, square meters, and those 7 major DCs to cover the most developed area in China. So we are committed to build an efficient and agile logistic networks. And what we are doing about efficiency, so firstly, we invest heavily with the distribution centers. Some of you have visited us in different areas in China, so and then the logistic solutions. We introduced the idea from the fast-moving goods that's like a route to market, like probably for most cases, we find the optimum route to market instead of the shortest. But that will be the most efficient one. Also intellectual systems like warehouse, transportation, or this repacking and other service. Well, with extra value, I think for now we're doing a lot of marketing or branding stuff. We do a lot of repacking or price packing architecture, and then a lot of marketing solutions. And then across the whole supply chain, we do invest a lot over IP or growing. And then we are really, I would say, fully covered with different channels in China, as I mentioned, like wholesale, retail, emerging ones, offroad shops. And then logistic, that's also something I mentioned, and marketing. We are the biggest agent for jet and rocket in the world, so we working very closely with the marketing staff, and actually we learn a lot, or we contribute a lot with that, those marketing things. So Joey Mao Engineering, we are here to provide you all solutions. And here's my contact information, so just feel free to reach me if you need me for anything, or if you just pay a quick visit to China. So we are everywhere in China. And then, thanks for the opportunity for me to be here, and all the best, and enjoy the summit. Thank you.